I used to think stories like this were exaggerations. Things people whispered about to scare children. Things that belonged to another time. But there is one place in Tennessee that still makes my chest tighten every time I hear its name. The land was quiet. Too quiet. Wide fields. Tall trees. Nothing that looked dangerous. At first, the family living there didn't believe in curses. They were practical people. Hardworking, religious, grounded in reality. That's why what happened next made no sense. It didn't start with screams, or shadows, or voices. It started with something watching, something no one could see. At first, they tried to ignore it. Strange noises at night, soft knocks on the walls, footsteps moving through empty rooms. They told themselves it was the house settling, the wind, animals. But the sounds didn't come from outside. They came from inside. Beds began to shake. Blankets were pulled away while they slept. Something touched them in the dark and vanished before they could scream. Still, no one spoke about fear, not out loud. Then the children started waking up crying, saying the same thing, that something stood near them at night, not breathing, not moving, just watching. It stopped being just noises after that. Whatever was in the house began to choose who it touched. The children were the first. Hair pulled without warning. Invisible hands striking their faces. Sharp pains that left no marks. Then it turned its attention to the one everyone respected the most, the father. At night, he felt pressure on his chest, as if something heavy was sitting on him while he slept. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He said it felt intelligent, not wild, not random, as if it was learning them, studying their reactions, and enjoying it. The voice came weeks later, not loud, not angry, calm. It spoke from the darkness, from the corners of the room, from places no one was standing. At first, it only whispered names, one by one, as if it already knew everyone. Then it began to answer questions. Questions no one asked out loud. It mocked prayers, interrupted conversations, finished sentences before anyone could. It said it was not a ghost, not a demon. It called itself a presence, something that had always been there, something that never left. And now, it said, the land belonged to it. It became clear soon enough. The presence wasn't attacking at random. There was one person it followed more closely than the others, one voice it spoke to more often, one name it repeated with intent: the Father. Whenever he entered the room, the air seemed heavier, colder. The voice mocked him openly, questioned his faith, challenged his authority. It laughed when he prayed, interrupted when he tried to sleep. At times, it would strike him without warning, not hard enough to kill, just enough to weaken him, as if it wanted him to suffer slowly, as if it was waiting for something. And whatever that was, it wasn't finished yet. Word eventually spread beyond the land. At first, it was dismissed. Stories tend to grow when they travel, but curiosity has a way of pulling people toward danger. Visitors began to arrive. Neighbors, strangers, men who claimed they had seen things before. Most came expecting tricks, pranks, fear fueled by imagination. The presence welcomed them. It spoke more freely, louder, more confident. It answered questions meant to trap it, repeated private thoughts no one had shared, revealed secrets whispered only once. Some visitors laughed until the voice spoke their names, until it described things it could not possibly know. Not everyone stayed the night. Those who did left before sunrise, silent, pale, and unwilling to ever return. That night felt different. No sounds at first, no movement, just silence that pressed against the walls. Then the voice spoke again, not to frighten, not to mock, to warn. It said something terrible was coming, something that could not be stopped, something already decided. No one understood what it meant until the father collapsed, not from a blow, not from a scream. He simply fell, unable to stand, unable to speak, his body weak, as if something had been taken from him. The presence did not deny it. It claimed responsibility, calmly, proudly. It said this was only the beginning, that it had patience, and time was on its side. Night, sleep became dangerous. The father grew weaker by the day, barely eating, barely speaking. Then one morning, something was found near his bed, a small vial. Dark liquid inside. No label, no smell anyone could recognize. The presence spoke before anyone asked. It said the liquid was meant for him, that it had prepared it carefully, patiently. No one had seen it placed there, No one had heard a sound, yet there it was. The father refused to touch it, refused to drink. That night, his breathing became shallow, uneven. The presence laughed softly. It said it didn't matter, because the father's strength continued to fade. One evening, he called the family together, his voice weak, trembling. He spoke of what had happened, of the presence, of the nights he could not sleep, of the things no one else could see. He warned them, he begged them to be careful, to respect it, to avoid angering it. Fire was never really his. Then he whispered something that would haunt them forever, that it had told him its name, and that it had claimed him. Even in death, he said, it would not leave the land. It would wait, watching, patient, cunning. And he asked them, with what little breath remained, to remember this warning, because the presence was not done. Not yet. After the father passed, life never returned to normal. The family stayed on the land, but the presence remained. It whispered at night, moved objects, left marks no one could explain. Visitors still reported strange events. Even years later, people spoke of it in hushed tones. The Bell Witch, a name that carried fear, a story that never ended. Some say it still waits in the fields, among the trees, watching, patient, and silent until someone dares to return.